I'm Cheree Ramirez with Children's Services Council of Martin County. I am happy to be here at the Florida Podcast.Studio recording another Community Unity vlog. And today my guest is co-director Randy with the Safe Families of the Treasure Coast.
Yes. I'm Randy, the co-director of Safe Families for Children of the Treasure Coast. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for that. I was too busy wondering if I was messing up your last name, and then I didn't even say your last name. But Randy, it is Hunt for some reason, and I knew that.
Yes.
I just was going to say Hall, and so I'm glad I stopped myself, and then I just botched your name. But
well, as my mom would say, I'll hunt you down.
That's going to be a way for me to remember it. And it's Safe Families of the Treasure Coast.
Safe Families for Children.
For children. Oh, my gosh. I
Treasure
completely
Coast.
missed the most important word for children. Children's Services Council of Martin County. For children. But thank you, Eddie Arguez, for letting us come and use your studio here in Stuart, Florida. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to be asking you questions, kind of what we've discussed yesterday. And I'm really excited to be able to share your program with the community. You're new to the funding cycle that CSC has from this last year, Safe Families and Strong Nurturing Families. So would you tell me a little bit about who you are and your organization?
Yes, I began with Safe Families for Children about 4 years ago as a family coach supervisor, and this past January I moved into the co-director role. Safe Families for Children was launched 20 years ago in Chicago by our founder, Dr. David Anderson, who was a part of the child welfare system at that time as a clinical psychologist. He became very concerned, often when talking with a parent who was very frustrated, overwhelmed, that when reaching out for help, the resources were very limited. Mm-hmm. He said, I really want to help you, Mom, but the fact is you almost have to be in crisis, or your family has to be falling apart before we can intervene. So he felt that there was something wrong with that scenario. Mm-hmm. So he went to the leadership in Chicago at that time and proposed what has become Safe Families for Children, a preventive intervention approach to keeping children safe and families together. So we work with moms, dads, grandparents who find themselves in need of additional relational supports from within the community they live.
That is such a beautiful thing because it's definitely needed. Our families, it takes a community, right? It takes a village is what that saying is.
Yes.
And it's great that you're able to offer that to the families and to be able to help keep them out of the system.
Yes, that's one of our objectives, is to prevent child abuse and neglect, to deflect from Department of Children and Families and foster care, as well as to help that parent who reaches out to stabilize whatever immediate crisis they're in, and beyond that, partner with them to develop those skills necessary to become resilient or more resilient and develop strength as a family in order to be able to bounce back when they face their next adversity.
So tell me about how you got to be in this role. I know you said you've been there for 4 years and you just recently become the co-director. Congratulations. For Martin and St. Lucie counties. You guys cover the Treasure Coast, which is Martin, St. Lucie, Okeechobee, and Indian River.
Yes.
I got it
did
right.
it. You
Okay,
did it really,
I did it.
You did a great job with that. Yes, I think what resonated with me about Safe Families for Children is, as a young child, I was adopted into an extended family. And one of the things that really resonated with me was the framework of keeping children safe and together with family, and being able to do that through training and vetting volunteers to serve in different ways to create a circle of support for a mom, dad, or a grandparent in order to keep children safe and families together. So I was in church one Sunday, and I remember reading a blurb in the bulletin. That's back when we had bulletins. And the blurb was about an upcoming Safe Families for Children training that was being hosted at First Methodist Church in Vero Beach. Several churches were invited, many different members of churches and members of the community came to that training. And during that training, the director at the time announced that she was going to be expanding her team to include a part-time family coach supervisor. And I really felt led to go have that conversation with her. And from there, we scheduled a time over coffee. I interviewed for the position and just feel blessed to be a part of the Safe Families movement. But truly was led to become a part of the movement simply because it resonated with my soul that this was the way I grew up. I grew up in an extended family type of support system. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
So it just became a lived experience that really became applicable in this way of work.
Almost like it's a calling.
Yes,
yep.
I really believe that it is a calling. I felt the calling when I was led to go talk to the director that day, mm-hmm. and those doors open.
It's beautiful how that always works out.
Yes.
There's always a way.
Yes.
I mean, same thing for me in this position.
Yes.
So, I wasn't qualified, mm-hmm. but I was qualified.
Yes, I was qualified. Well, and often it's said that, the equipped aren't necessarily called, the called are equipped.
Mm-hmm. And you said that this is your second go around at your career.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your first career.
Yes, okay. Well, sitting on that pew that Sunday, I remember having recently retired after 33 years in education. I had formerly been a general education teacher, an ESE teacher, an assistant principal, and then that was in the state of Kentucky. And then here in Florida, I had served as a school-based resource specialist or ESE specialist, mm-hmm. and for the last years of my career as a program specialist, overseeing specific programs for children with disabilities, mm-hmm. and really came to a point in my life where I was ready to have a fresh start and really look at another path. And that's when Safe Families kind of stood out to me. And all of my lived experiences, professional training and experiences as an educator have really
culminated to this point.
They really have, and really integrate nicely into the role I have now, especially when education is a topic.
Well, I'm right there with you, Randy. I'm right there with you. Our lived experiences tend to bring us to where we're supposed to be, right?
Yes.
So I love the model of Safe Families for Children. Let me add that, for children, of the Treasure Coast. When I first met Jacqueline, when you guys first received funding for us, I was interested to learn more about the different roles and the types of ways that people can volunteer and be part of your organization. Can you talk a little bit about the different roles that mm-hmm. you have for volunteers
Certainly.
And what it is that you're looking for?
Mm-hmm. I talked about our approach being preventative, in that we really want to meet a mom, dad, or a grandparent where they are. We do that by training and vetting volunteers to serve in different ways in what we refer to as a circle of support. That typically begins with a family friend volunteer. It could lead to family coaching. It may or may not lead to what we refer to as day or overnight hosting with a host family. There also are opportunities for volunteers to serve as a resource friend, which is typically an anonymous role, and that individual will provide a good or a service. Another role that we have within that circle is a ministry lead at a given church. The volunteers that serve with Safe Families are typically connected in some way to the local church. Mm-hmm. So our role as an organization is to train and vet volunteers. Because Safe Families for Children is volunteer-driven, mm-hmm. but it's professionally supported. So our team of 3 support the volunteers that are connected to partner churches throughout the Treasure Coast.
And you guys are one of 6 in the state of Florida.
Yes, I am excited that Safe Families for Children actually in Florida launched on the Treasure Coast. That's very rare. Yes, that it launched here, and we are, by all metrics, the strongest chapter in the state of Florida. There are 6 chapters in the state of Florida, 130 chapters across the country. There are chapters in Canada, the United Kingdom, and I think it was last year that a chapter launched in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
So this is truly a movement that's becoming international as a way to become that village, if you will, that circle of support to help keep children safe and a family together during a challenging time.
Well, the whole mission of CSC is to be able to help families and children be able to reach their full potential.
Yes.
We want to give them a hand up.
Yes.
And we can only do that when we have a community behind us. And we're so thankful for the taxpayers of Martin County because they're able to help us fund programs like your program.
Most definitely.
That we come together in community unity. I love the title, Community Unity, because we all have the same goals at hand. Our future are the children. And when we all have the same mission, it's so great when we can work together. And I know in our discussion yesterday, you were telling me about some of the relationships and the partnerships that you have in the community. Can you touch on that, please?
I will. We've been able to nurture, I believe, really strong collaborative partnerships already with Family Promise of Martin, as well as Boys and Girls Club. We've had
2 wonderful organizations.
Yes, and they've been phenomenal to work with. We've also had collaborative conversation and partnering in the beginning stages with the school district, as well as helping people succeed.
That's wonderful.
Those are 2 organizations where we know that there's a cross-section of individuals throughout those organizations, actually. And, people from all walks of life experience crises and need extra hands, especially if they have limited extended family. Yeah. One of the things we found on the Treasure Coast is that we have quite a transient population. So when someone new moves into a community, often those relationships are not yet established when a crisis occurs. We typically have extended family or established relationships, right? Well, families who are new to a community don't necessarily have that. Frequently, those are the types of calls we get from a mom or a dad, a grandparent who are new to the area and are just needing support to be able to navigate and access available resources within the community or just to grow their support system. Yeah. To be able to have someone to lean on in a time of need.
So those are great referral sources. And we do also fund Boys and Girls Club of Martin County.
Yes.
And I love April over at Family Promise and Cher and Madeline. They're all such wonderful humans and just really helping make an impact in Martin County for the people who are struggling and finding a home to live and have a safe roof over their head. So they have a wonderful mission there as well. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the basis, really, of what type of volunteers you get. I know you keep on bringing up faith-based. Are you guys a faith-based organization?
We are a faith-based movement and truly are tied to the work of the local church within our communities. That we believe is a strength, within a community. We I think have discovered that not only is Coca-Cola one of the strongest distributed networks in the world, the church is a phenomenal distribution of information and support. So one of the reasons Dr. Anderson partnered with churches was just to be able to tap into that network of support and really, as an extension of the church, being able to do and serve beyond Sunday, the needs of the members of our community.
That's beautiful. I know personally I work with Family Church of North Stewart and, lead a Bible study. And I just know that there are a lot of families who are just, in need of services or they're willing to volunteer and they're looking for something to do to be able to help out. So I know that there are a lot of people in Martin County who have a heart for giving. This is a very philanthropic-based community, and we have so many different nonprofit organizations that focus on different topics. And this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't know if you know that or not.
Yes.
But, wearing Tykes and Teens green today on my wrist, as I have been the whole month. And it's one of those things where it's really a delight to see when community partners work together. And when you go and you lift somebody, you meet them where they're at, like you said, you meet them where they're at, and you are able to help lift them up and give them a hand up. It's just, again, one of those things that our focus is at CSC is being able to help those families and those children reach their full potential. So you touched a bit on the family friend. So family friend, that is somebody who would go alongside one of the parents or the grandparents in their crises and be able to help lift them up and just really be a friend. Can you give me a little bit more specifics on that?
I can. As we go through the 4-hour training, we cover not only the overview and framework of Safe Families for Children, but what it looks like to be a friend. We all have friends, and to have quality friendships sometimes takes intentionality and effort and work, right? So one of the things that we train our volunteers to do is be able to enter into a relationship really with the relationship progression in mind. There are natural stages of a relationship that's developing over time, and that's one of the things we see as our strength. We are about relational support. So those family friends really, as you mentioned, walk alongside that mom, dad, or grandparent just to be that listening ear, that individual that can be there to provide, let's say, pick up and drop off for a mom who's working late. Those are the types of things that a family friend would do. Sometimes those family friending opportunities lead to day hosting. We use day hosting as our term versus babysitting, simply because...
Or respite care.
Or respite care, because we want it to be an engaging, intentional time with children. Our director, Dr. David Anderson, talked about the way that Safe Families can counteract the ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences, is by being very intentional during day and overnight hostings with children to provide positive childhood experiences, to be able to help counterbalance or at least create positive memories.
So in order to be a volunteer, do you have to go to church?
You don't necessarily have to be a member of a local church. You don't necessarily have to be a believer. You have really the only requirement is the open heart and openness to enter into a relationship with someone who has reached out for that type of support.
So, another, I guess, let me rephrase how I'm going to ask this question. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a church organization that you partner with. It can be another organization that can see that you have the same values and help.
That's exactly right. Some of the chapters across the country, and we're actually in the proposal stages of a safe families school approach.
Oh, wow.
Where we would actually train and have teachers or staff or members of the school community serve in similar ways, and they're not necessarily tied to a local church.
Mm-hmm.
However, we would do the training and the vetting and making sure that they are safe to be with children and adults as part of our process, but not necessarily always tied to a church,
Mm-hmm.
but to an organization that really wants to be preventative in the way we intervene with a family, trying to meet them upstream before they are in the deeper waters.
That makes great sense, and thank you for saying that. And because I'm sure there are other organizations within Martin County who are also willing to, come alongside of your organization. So you did mention a level 2 background, so
Mm-hmm.
all volunteers need to
Yes.
pass a level 2 background. What about those individuals who might not pass a level 2 background? Would they still be able to volunteer with your organization, and in what capacity?
We have the role of general volunteer that's not necessarily a vetted volunteer
Mm-hmm.
that is willing to help out. They're not necessarily in conversation or interacting with children or adults. They may be someone who helps move a sofa from point A to point B.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Or they may help provide a good or a service.
Mm-hmm.
So they might even be someone that, as time goes on, becomes a part of a team that goes out into the community to do outreach and to recruit other people to become a part of the movement.
Awesome.
Yes.
So you welcome everybody.
Yes, we do. We have a stringent vetting process, and that's
Mm-hmm.
for a reason, because all of our volunteers are covered under our liability insurance, which is tied to our national organization.
Okay.
So it gives a volunteer the freedom, for example, to pick up the child after school and take him to wherever mom needs to meet the volunteer.
Might need a little help.
Yes, often we are
Mm-hmm.
hesitant to have others ride in our vehicle,
Yeah.
right? And that's one of the strengths of Safe Families, is that we remove some of those barriers to being able to serve or to step out.
That's perfect. So one of the other things that I wanted to kind of touch base on was the resource. You just started receiving funding from Children's Services Council, and it's your first year is under a funding priority. So what that means is that they're a developmental. So you guys have to provide a matching, and you're getting into the cycle and the rotation. Can you tell me a little bit about that process for you and other ways that you are looking for resources for your program?
Well, I can, and I just have to give a shout out to Nicole, Brandon, and Zach at the Children's Services Council of Martin County. They've been so readily available and accessible as we have traveled through or still in the developmental process. And really, Nicole, our grant manager, has really reminded me often, this is the developmental phase. We're really creating something that will be long-lasting as a support system within our community. One of the things I think we are in need of at this time is really to partner with churches within our local community or organizations who have volunteer opportunities,
Yep.
and Safe Families could be a consideration for those who are volunteering. We do have a couple of partner churches here in Martin County, with one in the works, but that again is the way that we train and vet as well as deploy our volunteers. Typically, we're tied to local churches within the community. So our huge ask is to have those members of churches or leaders of pastoral teams at churches really think about and look into Safe Families for Children as an extension of the ministry at the church.
Fantastic. So any churches, any pastoral leaders, or anybody who is interested in partnering with Safe Families for Children of the Treasure Coast, see, I almost did it again, please feel free to reach out to Randy. And Randy, can you provide your contact information? And we'll have it on the bottom there so they can see.
I can. My direct email is rhunt. I guess that's runt, right? RHUNT at safefamilies, SAFEFAMILIES.net. And my direct number is 772-262-9725. If you do know someone who is in need, we have an intake line that is monitored at all times. That number is 772-217-9066.
Perfect. And did you mention your website?
We are at safe-families.org.
Okay, safe-families.org.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe that's why I kept wanting to say Safe Families and skip the children. I mean, it's obviously for children as well,
it is.
But it's Safe Families.
Well, I always
I keep bringing that up. No.
Well, I always add the for children because safe families can sometimes be confused with safe space.
Yes.
Or we have families of the Treasure Coast, right? So sometimes, as you mentioned, with the number of nonprofits that we have, they're focused on children and families. That can be confusing to those in our community. So that's one of the reasons I really like to add the for children there, because I had a call a couple of times that, is this safe space or is this Families of the Treasure Coast? And then there's that clarification that we're Safe Families of the Treasure Coast.
And you guys also work closely with Communities Connected for Kids as well, correct?
We do, and that is a good segue to some of the referral sources. Community Connected for Kids is a great referral partner to us. We continue to provide that circle of support to parents who've gone through that process of adoption with Communities Connected for Kids, or who have children currently in foster care who need to grow their support system.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Another referral source that we often hear from is the Department of Children and Families. Often moms, dads, grandparents in need reach out to DCF themselves to say, I need help, I'm overwhelmed. So DCF will refer them to us as a resource.
Well, a council member, Bob McPartland, works for DCF, and I remember him making a statement during the council meeting where you guys got approved and started receiving funding from us, but how excited he was that it was you guys are finally in Martin County. And he spoke so highly of the work that you've been doing in Indian River and Okeechobee and St. Lucie counties, and that just says a lot right there, that you guys are making a difference and you guys are preventing families from going down into a deeper deeper water, is what you said. So it's such a great thing that our community has so many different organizations to be able to help families along the way, but then that you can come in and help partner within those organizations, creating community partnerships and unity, because like I said before, we all have the same mission at hand, and it's to create a world where the children and the families who are struggling, maybe in that circumstantial or generational issues, can get out of that and climb out of that. So it's so great. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Was there anything else that I might have missed? I did. I did. Let me bring this back. One of the other things that we discussed yesterday was you help foster students who are phasing out, or aging out, I guess, is the proper term, but aging out of the system. Can you tell me a little bit about that work?
Typically the children that we serve are 0 to 18, and there's a huge need within our community for those who age out of foster care. So one of the facets of Safe Families for Children is called Safe Families Plus, which allows us to partner with an individual who has turned 18 who needs that friend, mentor, coach, their own circle when they have limited access to human resources or extended family. So that's one of the new areas that we feel we can meet a gap need within our community.
And within our community, I mean, as you stated, you work with Family Promise and the people who are going through that transitional phase. I mean, I just think it's so wonderful for these resources, especially for our youth who are becoming adults and might need that mentor that they didn't have maybe growing up, that can help lead them in the right direction for their career or for their education or whatever it is. So again, thank you for the work that you're doing, and I look forward to seeing the impact that y'all are going to have on Martin County. However we can help and facilitating those connections, be happy to help you. I just want to say what a great organization that your tax dollars are at work. And thank you again for over 35 years of support of Children's Services Council of Martin County, because you really are truly making a difference through these programs that we're able to fund with your taxpayer dollars. So, thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next episode.